Can the Dodgers afford to make a trade for Nolan Arenado and pursue Shohei Ohtani in free agency? Should they trade for Justin Verlander? That's coming up next on Dodgers Nation Mailbag. What up, Dodgers Nation? D-Mac here. We're back with another episode of Dodgers Nation Mailbag. Last week's episode, we talked Shohei Ohtani, we talked Mookie Betts, and if you haven't yet, be sure to submit a question over on Twitter. Also, submit a video question. We would appreciate that. You can be answered on the #1 Dodgers YouTube channel. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and we want all your comments down below. Do you want to see the Dodgers trade for Nolan Arenado? Do you think that would put getting Shohei Ohtani at risk? Would you like to see Justin Verlander in Dodger blue? Let us know down below. And for all the latest Dodgers news, head over to DodgersNation.com. So let's get right into this mailbag. I'm going to kick it over to producer Cody. He's going to feed me the questions. Cody, what you got for me, my man?
We got MV17 up next on Twitter. He says, any chance that a trade for Arenado puts a negotiation for Ohtani signing with us in jeopardy, like payroll things and that nature? I would imagine we're not in for getting a trade for Ohtani done by the trade deadline.
Great question. It's a loaded question. There's a lot of information behind it. But first, for starters, just on a simple level, yes, if the Dodgers can get a deal done for Nolan Arenado, if the Cardinals, if the birds on the bat are willing to do a deal with the enemy in the Dodgers, yes, they could get that deal done. The Dodgers have the requisite prospect capital. They have the financial resources. And most importantly, they do not have a lot of money committed after next season. After 2025, the Dodgers, all you have is Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts on the books. Even after next season, you just have Chris Taylor in the final year of his contract. You have Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. This team has set itself up to make big acquisitions, to maintain that financial flexibility. I see a lot of Dodger fans out there that always get upset when you don't get guys signed to extension, guys like Will Smith or Julio Urias. But what that does allow them to do is they have the flexibility, and you can go out there, and when a player like Nolan Arenado becomes available, you can find a way to make that deal. Now, the next big question is, how much is Nolan Arenado getting paid? Well, if they're able to get that deal done, he's still going to be owed anywhere from $94 to $109 million, because the last year of that contract, he doesn't have the no trade clause. But in 2024, he's set to make $35 million, with the Rockies paying $5 million. In 2025, the Rockies are also paying $5 million. 2026, the Rockies are also paying $5 million as well. In the final year of that deal, you get $15 million. So when you look at that deal, it goes down and not up. And yes, he's a guy that you're probably going to get some decline on the end. There's no question about that. But you have him through the 2027 season, and that also is aligned with how long you're going to have Freddie Freeman. So if you want to go all in on this core, if you believe in Freddie Freeman, if you believe in Mookie Betts, and you want to add a Nolan Arenado who would be the long-term solution at third base, and right now there's really no guys that are waiting in the wings to take over that position, then I think it does make some sense. Now, where do the Dodgers stand with Nolan Arenado? Well, there is some momentum heading in that direction. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but if there is one team out there that's going to swing a trade for him, it is the Dodgers, because Nolan Arenado has a full no trade clause. He would have to waive that for any team to make a move for him. Where's Nolan Arenado from? He's from Newport Beach, California. He went to El Toro High School. He has the same trainer as Freddie Freeman. He grew up as a Dodger fan. So the point is, Nolan Arenado has leverage in this situation. If he wants to be a Dodger, I think it could get done. And Aldo Gonzalez of ESPN, he wrote that the Dodgers have long been enamored of Arenado, 32, and they see third base as a need they'll need to address in the offseason, given their present construction. Arenado is still owed $94 million over the next 3 years. That price tag, however, shouldn't be a deterrent to the Dodgers, who spent wisely this offseason to stay below the luxury tax. So even if you bring in an Arenado, and let's say you sign Shohei Ohtani for anywhere from $500 to $600 million, you can still stay below that Stephen Cohen tax. And what has this Dodgers organization been able to do? They've been able to sign guys like Jason Hayward to minor league deals, guys like David Peralta, guys, high value guys that other franchises would not be able to get at those prices. So it could get a little top heavy. There's no question about that, but it would signal that the Dodgers are all the way in on this current nucleus, and they feel like Nolan Arenado is someone who is a solution at the hot corner. I also will add that you need another right-handed bat. You need a bat that can match against left-handed pitching. His splits have been pretty even, and he's not an elite bat at this stage of his career, but he's still well above average, close to a 130 weighted runs created plus. Yes, his defense has been on the decline, but I think that'll have an uptick, and I think that'll restore closer to career norms if he does get traded. This guy is the best defensive third baseman of all time. He's a 10-time Gold Glove Award winner. He's a 6-time Platinum Glove Award winner. And as of right now, what do the Cardinals need? They need starting pitching. They need relief pitching. That is who they would target, and that is exactly what this Dodgers organization has. They have a ton of it. Now, the Dodgers could make a trade not only for Nolan Arenado, but you could include a Jack Flaherty. You could get a Jordan Montgomery. The Dodgers could part ways with a handful of top pitching prospects, and they still would have a top 10 farm system. So the point is, this organization, they're set up very nicely. And just to kind of rewind a little bit on Arenado's contract, last October, he declined to opt out of the remaining 5 years and $144 million left to remain with the Cardinals through 2027, and that got himself another opt-out. So he has the opt-out, and he has the no trade clause. So yes, to answer your question, this is not going to be a situation where if they trade for Nolan Arenado, that means no on Shohei Ohtani. Look, when's the last time you impulse bought an item that was over $500 million, right? You save up for things that you know you're going to buy, houses, cars, whatever it may be. The Dodgers have had Shohei Ohtani in their plans for a long time now. And if they did trade for Nolan Arenado, it would be a move that would signal we want to win now. Cody, let me get the next question.
Robert FPC13 over on Twitter says, will Walker Buehler return this season?
I absolutely believe that Walker Buehler is going to return this season. You cannot doubt a guy like Walker Buehler, a guy that puts the work in, a guy that knows his body, a guy that knows how pitching works. As far as this is not his first Tommy John surgery. This is not his first arm surgery. He understands the process. He puts in the work daily. And I think, too, if you just look at the date that he is obsessed with, it's September 1st. And he's been throwing bullpens. He's been hitting 94 on the gun. He just shared a video of himself throwing a bullpen session on his personal IG last week. All signs point to Walker Buehler coming back. Now, I will say, though, when he comes back, how is he going to look? Is he going to look like 2020 Walker Buehler? Is he going to look like 2018 Butane, where he established himself as one of the best postseason pitchers in the game, a surefire ace? Is he going to be that guy, or is he going to be someone that struggles with command? Because that usually is the case. That is the last thing that you get back when you return after having surgery, because if he does have that command, if they do have him stretched out to go 4, 5, or 6 innings, that's going to be a major boost for this Dodgers starting rotation. But I will say that's icing on the cake. That's the cherry on top. If it happens, great, but you can't rely on it. The Dodgers, they have been bitten so many times in the past by trying to wait for guys to return from injury, and it usually does not work out well. Look at last season. Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, Blake Trine. The list goes on and on. I think Walker Buehler is in a different category where I believe him when he says that he can do it. And look, he's a guy that even if you rush him back, he's going to do what he's going to do, and he's under one more year of team control. So I absolutely believe that Walker Buehler is going to be back. And even if it's in a multi-inning reliever role where he can be a high-leverage guy, yeah, he hasn't played that role much in his career, but you do not say no to a weapon like Buehler, especially in the postseason. And for our Dodgers Nation mailbag video submitted question of the week, I'm going to kick to Cody. Cody, who do we have a question from this week?
We have a video submission from our friend Joe about Justin Verlander.
Hey, D-Mac, I have one question. Should the Dodgers trade for Verlander or no?
So should the Dodgers trade for Justin Verlander? Wow, you really went there. A member of the 2017 Astros, someone who's been quite vocal about that team. Look, the reality when it comes to Justin Verlander is the Dodgers, they were interested in signing him last offseason. What I said a few minutes ago, they have their guys, they have players that they're interested in. Now, first, let's look at his contract. He's under contract for a few more seasons. That's the difference between Verlander and a Max Scherzer. Well, Max Scherzer, if you trade for him, you get him for the rest of this year, and then he'll most likely opt into the $43.3 million in the last year of that contract. Verlander is a little different case because you get $43.3 million for the next season, and then he has a vested option of $35 million in his last year. I get it, 35 is number 35, and that's the option. Now, that's vested with 140 innings pitched in 2024, and that would take him to his age 42 season. So what I say when you had Scherzer and Justin Verlander on that Mets team, it was the ace RP. Two aging veteran starting pitchers. Would the Dodgers want one of those two? I think there is a chance. It's possible. If you look at the market, we just talked about names like Lance Lynn. We talked about names like Lucas Giolito. Those are solid pitchers. Those are pitchers that can have an ace-like performance, but they're not true number one starters. They are not aces. Max Scherzer and Verlander, that's the holy trinity right there. You got Scherzer, you got Kershaw, you got Verlander. Those are the three pitchers of their generation. Now, Verlander, as far as how good of a pitcher he is this season, had a little bit of a rocky start, struggling with command at times, but he has really turned it up in the month of July. So far this month, a 1.69 ERA. He's coming off of two really solid starts. Last start against the White Sox, he went 8 innings, gave up just 1 run. Yesterday against the Yankees, he ends up going 6 innings, just 2 hits. Ends up with 6 strikeouts and 4 walks. So the walks have been a little high. You might remember his start against the Dodgers where he looked really good, but the command just wasn't there. He ended up with 6 strikeouts and 6 walks. But can he still get it done at this part of his career at this stage? I think he can.
And we've got an update on the Dodgers' pursuit of Justin Verlander. Jack Harris and Jorge Castillo of the LA Times, they're reporting that the Dodgers have explored Verlander as a trade option according to multiple people with knowledge of the situation. The 4th place Mets have also emerged as likely sellers after dealing top reliever David Robertson to the Miami Marlins on Thursday. The Dodgers tried to sign Verlander this past offseason, making a 2-year, $80 million offer. Verlander ultimately signed for 2 years and $86.6 million with the Mets instead. The contract also includes a vesting option for a 3rd season. So what do I always say? The Dodgers are more concerned about the years than they are the money. Yes, that's a bloated short-term deal. $86.6 million. You have that vested option, but one, if that vested option is kicked in, it means that Justin Verlander pitched well for the Dodgers. It means at the very least he pitched 140 or more innings, and they got some innings out of him. They got some solid quality starts out of him. That's what that would indicate. So you wouldn't feel terrible about giving him $35 million in that last season, even though he would be north of 40 years old. Yes, that is something, but still, this is Justin Verlander we're talking about. We're talking about one of the best pitchers of his generation. Yes, he's behind the GOAT Clayton Kershaw, but still, he's had a very accomplished career. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And the more important question is, how much can he help this team this year? Is he vintage Justin Verlander? Has he regressed? Well, if you look at his numbers so far this season, he's posted 3.24 ERA, a 3.93 FIP, a 20.9 K percentage, and 8.2 walk percentage. So when you look at his numbers, those are the numbers that are up. The walk percentage and the strikeout rate. So last season when he won the Cy Young for the Astros, he posted a 27.8% strikeout rate and a minuscule 4.4 walk percentage. Those numbers have jumped to 20.9% and 8.2% this season. For his career, he's at 24.7% and 6.9%. We've seen him post strikeout rates of above 30%, 2018, 34.8% with a 4.4 walk percentage. So he definitely has declined a little bit from his prime. He's not the same pitcher he was when he was at his absolute peak, but he's still a very, very good pitcher at this stage of his career. He still has ace-level performances, even though he's at age 40. So he's been impressive of late as well, too. His last 6 starts, Verlander has posted an impressive 1.46 ERA, but during that stretch, a little bit of a red flag, a 4.81 expected FIP, that 21.5 strikeout rate and 11.4 walk rate are both below league average. So you would definitely want to see him get closer to his career norms. I think the Dodgers could help him do that. It was also dealing with injuries early on this season. That's one of the reasons why he came out of the gates and just wasn't the Cy Young caliber Justin Verlander early on. So I'm sure that will stabilize. You've already seen those numbers improving as the summer moves along, and hopefully he can peak at the right time in the postseason, because last year in the postseason, he had some moments, but he wasn't great. In the postseason, he posted a 5.85 ERA in 4 postseason starts. So is he a guy that you think is going to come in there and put this team on his back in the postseason? I'm not so sure that's the case, but he can absolutely be capable of putting together really nice quality starts. And he's definitely an upgrade to some guys that could be in this rotation. He's been there, done that. I think he'd be re-energized, reinvigorated, because if he were to be with the Dodgers, that would mean that he would waive his no-trade clause. And I think that's another big question right now is, does he want to be in LA? Does he want to deal with having to answer questions questions about what happened in 2017, but we don't know that. Who knows what's in the mind of Justin Verlander? Maybe what happened in 2017 continues to eat at him. Maybe he wants to go to the Dodgers and help them win a World Series to try to get 2017 off his conscience a little bit. Maybe he says to himself, hey, I was a part of a team that stole a World Series from you. Now I'm going to be a part of a team that helps you win a World Series, and almost tries to right his wrong or just the wrongs of the Astros. I don't know what's going through Justin Verlander's head. I do know that players like him, it does feel like they end up in Los Angeles. Kate Upton feels very Hollywood to me. I feel like they would probably fit in with the LA scene possibly. I mean, I think there's a fit there, but I think also it just comes down to what does Justin Verlander want to do, because ultimately he holds the power. He has a no-trade clause. Also, he was asked by reporters about the Mets selling and the possibility of him getting traded, and he told reporters, I'm focused on being a Met. I want to win here. Obviously, it hasn't gone according to plan just yet, but I didn't sign a one-year deal. So that doesn't sound like a guy who wants to waive his no-trade clause to be a Dodger, but you never know. And in most cases, players will never say anything that's substantial in those situations because they want to maintain as much leverage as they possibly can. Who knows? Maybe Justin Verlander wants to maintain that leverage and tell the Dodgers, okay, I'll waive that no trade clause if you guarantee me that last season at $35 million, and it's not a vested option, and it doesn't matter if I pitch 140 or more innings. That's always something that could possibly be in play. When you get a no trade clause, you have tons of power. And we look at other teams around the league, there's not a lot of teams that can afford Justin Verlander. An $86.6 million contract, only a select few of big market teams like the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the big boys can afford a contract like that, but the small market guys can't. When you look at what Stephen Cohen could be after, we've seen him foot some of the bill to get some prospects, so maybe either the Dodgers absorb that and don't have to give up as many prospects, or they give up prospects and don't have to pay as much on the deal. I think the Dodgers would prefer to keep as many prospects as they possibly can, and they would probably pay him that money because they did offer him $80 million to pitch in LA. He just went with the Mets. Now, one of the main things I look at when I look at older players as far as player acquisitions is how does the stuff look? How does the raw stuff look compared to their prime, compared to years past? And if you look at Verlander this season, he's averaging 94.3 miles per hour on that four-seam fastball. That's down slightly from 95 miles per hour last year, but that's not a big drop-off. If you look at the spin rates, it's actually a little higher. If you look at the pitch mix, it's consistent. If you look at some of his other StatCast metrics, there is a lot to like. In the 79th percentile in expected slug, 80th percentile in barrel percentage, 73%. The 73rd percentile in expected batting average, chase rate, curveball spin, fastball spin. So, yeah, this is definitely a pitch that could help the Dodgers. It's just about, can you get past that it's Justin Verlander? Can you get past the Astros element to it? But I think a lot of Dodger fans, they just want to win. And if this Dodgers organization thinks that this is the best ace-level pitcher out there that they might not have to compete with as far as negotiating with other teams, I think it does make a lot of sense. You kind of have to trust the organization, because if you go out there and try to pursue a Dylan Cease, who Verlander, one, is pitching better than Dylan Cease this season, he doesn't have all that team control left on an affordable deal, so you'd have to part ways with tons of big prospects, and the White Sox have pretty much told teams that they're not going to trade him. So it's really not too many ace-level pitches out there. Verlander could be your best option. And I know it sounds crazy, but this is a deal the Dodgers could definitely make. I mean, they could also add a Tommy Pham. You could also add an Ottavino, a Mark Canha. I mean, there's other names out there where you could package multiple Mets players. But, yeah, I definitely would have to give this a 3 Dodger dogs at the moment, maybe a little more than that. I do think there is some serious smoke as far as the Dodgers' interest in Justin Verlander. I would not be shocked at all if they made this trade. What I always say, if you were interested in a player once, there's a good chance that you're still interested and you would still want to get them later. Just look at Lance Lynn, for example. They wanted to trade for him in 2020. They end up trading for him in 2023. So this definitely could happen, and we'll wait and see, because ultimately it comes down to one, does Stephen Cohen want to trade Justin Verlander? He was one of their prize signings in the offseason. Does he really want to move on from these elder aces, or does he think that he can still make another run with Verlander and Scherzer at the top of their rotation? And two, will Justin Verlander waive his no-trade trade clause to come to LA. If those two things are a yes, I definitely think this could happen. I think that the Dodgers are focused on bringing another ace arm to try to solidify this rotation and raise this ceiling.
I mean, there are some pros and cons. Pros, Kate Upton. Cons, Ben Verlander. And I think you have to consider that. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, I do think that if you want a starting pitcher, you want to take on some money, then you kind of start getting into that conversation. We kind of circle back to the answer of the question earlier with Arenado, because then you're starting to add some big money guys in. You're talking about $43.3 million for Verlander. You're talking about Ohtani at $50+ million. You're talking about an Arenado who does have a good amount of deferred money, and I don't think that really that's that bad, but it does get into that conversation. So it really just boils down to how much you want to invest in this team. I mean, Arenado, you just got to have to put it in perspective. These guys now, look at what Manny Machado just signed for. Look at what Xander Bogaerts and Trey Turner signed for. You are not getting these premium players with anything less than 10 to 11 plus years. Arenado, a few seasons, you lock him up with Freddie Freeman this core, you're feeling good about that. Verlander, the similar situation, you're getting a premium pitcher. It's never the money with the Dodgers, it's the years. It's the years with the Dodgers. The Dodgers, they're billionaires, right? They're going to make their money back. It's just a matter if they think that he can help them win this year. But that's going to do it for this episode of Dodgers Nation Mailbag. Don't forget to submit your questions next week over on Twitter. Also, we're going to make a post on YouTube, so you guys will have the option of submitting questions on YouTube, and also bring those video submissions. Definitely bring those video submissions and send that to our Twitter or our Instagram or our YouTube, and we'll definitely include that on a future episode. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. For all things Dodger baseball all season long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you really want to support the channel, smash that like button. For producer Cody, definitely give him a like. Mash that like button for producer Cody. Did a great job with the questions today. And until next time, think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.